What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vegas 54. We have Jan Blachowicz going against Aleksander Rakic.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we're back for another full card breakdown and prediction video this week. UFC Vegas 54, 11 fight card. So not a ton of fights compared to last week. We had 15. Of course, Cerrone, Lozon fell off, so 14. But yeah, it should be an interesting card here. Interesting main event, high-level main event, and then some really fun fights on this card. So definitely looking forward to it as always. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I think we're less than like 50 subs away from 15,000. So thank you guys so much for that. Maybe hit that this week. That'd be awesome, and do appreciate that a ton, guys. Really do. Other than that, do want to shout out the winner from last week. We did the significant strike contest as always, and I do want to shout out Sean Wilson, who commented 51 significant strikes, and the correct answer was 51 significant strikes. So right on the dot there for Sean. Congrats to you, Sean. If you can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram with your PayPal or Cash App, that'd be appreciated there, and I'll get you your winnings, or comment below as well. That's also an option. But yeah, congrats. That was awesome. Other than that, guys, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the Numbers. Going live Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and then Saturday, 1 hour prior to the prelims for Best Bet with me, Uncle Weezy, Narco Cop, and Eric Betts fight. So lots going on. Make sure you are subscribed so not miss out on all of that. And then if you do want extra content, be sure to sign up at dfsbythenumbers.com. Had a monster week last week, cashed my first max bet of the year with some violence in the main event, sweat-free. I knew as soon as it started that fight was going to finish, and my goodness, did it, and it was exciting as well. But yeah, other than that, I say we get into it. 11 fights to talk about. And let's start with the first fight of the night. So we have Nick Maximov going against Andre Petroski. We have Nick Maximov, who is 24 years old, 6 foot, with a 76-inch reach, 8-0, and obviously 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Andre Petroski, he is 30 years old, 6 foot, with a 73-inch reach, 7-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So I actually like both these guys quite a bit, and I like their games quite a bit. We see that Maximov is a very big favorite, and he is the biggest favorite on the card. He opened up at minus 250, and he is now minus 375. Andre Petroski opened up plus 210, and he is now plus 310 here. So yeah, you take a look at Andre Petroski. This guy, I like this guy a lot, but my goodness, he has had like the easiest 2 fights you'll ever see. He made his debut against Michael Gilmore, who's obviously not UFC caliber. I believe he's cut now. And then Yezhong Hu, who could potentially be the worst fighter in UFC history. I believe Yezhong Hu at this point is like 3-3, and the dude is in the UFC. He's now cut. He went 0-3 in the UFC. So it's been like an easy run for Andre Petroski, but he's making easy work of these guys with back-to-back third-round finishes. You have Nick Maximov on the other hand, who is fighting some much better competition. He had that Contender Series fight against Oscar Cota at heavyweight, and then he goes in his debut and beats Cody Brundage, which is a really good win there by decision, and then a very impressive win against Punahele Soriano. And funny stat here is before that fight, the narrative was, Soriano has a 100% takedown defense. What's his takedown defense going to look like against Maximov? After the Maximov fight, where Maximov took him down 11 times, Soriano went from a 100% takedown defense to a 35% takedown defense. I mean, Maximov is legit. This guy is relentless. This is a guy that you're going to want to have your money on in fights, because he's going to go out there and he's going to implement his game plan and stick to that game plan for 15 minutes, no matter who's calling him boring or not. I know a lot of people were saying his fight was boring last time, and I don't know. I feel like it's a fun style to watch. I mean, you don't see guys that often who are going to go out there and wrestle for 15 minutes and be able to keep it up. Like, this guy's cardio is on another level, and I think that's the big difference here in this fight. Yeah, Maximov, who this guy can wrestle for 15 minutes, no problem. He can go out there and shoot 15, 20 takedowns if he needs to and be completely fresh the full way, where you have Andre Petroski, who the guy is getting these third-round finishes that's just, he's looking like he's slowing down early on. Like in the Yezhong Hu fight, he was looking very, very, sluggish in the first round, looking very tired in the first round, and, he was able to kind of push through it and, work through that tiredness, but there was no resistance. You're not getting resistance from a Yezhong Hu. You're not getting resistance from a Michael Gilmore, who, by the way, was very small for the weight class. But I have a feeling he's going to get some resistance here from Maximov here. So I think in terms of the skill sets, like, they're pretty similar. We don't see a ton of their striking. Maximov thus far, we have a 45-minute sample from Contender Series in his 2 UFC fights. He's landed like 25 strikes from distance, so I haven't got to see a ton of his striking. Petroski, we've got to see a little bit more. He went out there, he looked good against Yazonghu. I will say the technique's not really there, but this guy does throw with a ton of power, which seems to be to his detriment a little bit, putting everything into every shot. It's going to tire you out a little bit, but yeah, I think Petroski, very, very good wrestler, wrestling background, BJJ black belt, I believe the guy's a very good grappler. It's just, I think cardio is going to play a huge difference in this fight. I think Petroski could even have success early on. It's just, can he keep up that pace for 3 rounds? I really don't think so. So I think Maximov wins here. I'm actually going to say Maximov finishes Petroski late. Like I said, I don't like the cardio Petroski. He's able to get away with it against Yazonghu and Michael Gilmer, but I think he's going to be met with some resistance here, and I think Maximov is going to gas him out and finish him late. But yeah, give me Maximov to win. I'm going to say Maximov wins by a 3rd round late submission. Very good fight here to kick off the card. Next, we have a fight we were supposed to see 2 weeks ago, and we're finally going to see it. It looks like Candelario pulled out, I think due to some illness, so you don't really like to see that, and he was the last one on the scale to weigh in. He didn't look that great 2 weeks ago, and now he has to cut weight again, so just something to mention there. But we have Taira, who is 22 years old, 5'7", 10-0, and obviously 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Candelario, he is 30 years old, 5'8", with a 67-inch reach, 8-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and Taira, big favorite, opened up minus 250, is now minus 240, and then Candelario is plus 210, and he is currently opened up plus 210, he's currently plus 205. Yeah, so we broke this fight down before. Taira, he is going to be making his debut in the UFC, obviously, and he's going to be making his debut in the United States. So there are some, question marks about Taira. How is he going to perform? He's very, very young, 22 years old. He hasn't fought like complete bums outside the UFC, but this is going to be a step up in competition from some of the guys he has been facing. But I think like when you look at this fight stylistically, although there's some things some red flags, some question marks about Taira, stylistically, I feel like this is a very good spot for him. Candelario, we've seen it in his 2 Contender Series fights. I mean, the guy's takedown defense just looks non-existent. I want to say, like, on paper, throughout 2 fights, his takedown even sitting at 47%. He's getting taken down. His cardio doesn't look that great. And Taira, what I will say is his grappling is phenomenal. And again, it's against lower level guys, not complete bums, but lower level guys. But his grappling just really, really impressed me. This guy's very slick on the mat, and I think he can get down Candelario. And if he does, he probably has some success on the mat. So on the feet, I just need to see a little bit more of Taira. His striking looks okay. It's nothing special. Kind of lowish volume as well. But I think this fight's going to be won and lost on the mat. I think Taira gets him down, controls him, and pulls out a decision here. But yeah, it's hard to go out there and lay minus 200 on a 22-year-old making his debut. First fight in the U.S. Just some things you don't like to see. But, stylistically, I think this is a very winnable fight for the young Tatsuro Taira. So give me Taira to win. I'll take Taira to win by decision. All right, I'm looking forward to this fight. It should be a fun one. We have Virna, Jandiroba going against Angela Hill. We have Jandiroba. She is 33 years old, 5'3", with a 64-inch reach, 17-3 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Angela Hill, 37 years old, 5'3", with a 64.5-inch reach, 13-11 and 1-4 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and Jandiroba opened up minus 140. She's now minus 175. Angela Hill opened up plus 120. She's now plus 150. And I'll be honest, these odds just don't really make much sense to me. I think Jandiroba could absolutely win, but I kind of feel like she is sub or bust in the spot. Like on the feet, it's going to be Angela Hill all day. And, you could say that Virna Jandiroba's striking has looked improved, and it has, but you got to look at who it's looking improved against. It's looking improved against Kanako Murata, who has to be like the worst striker in the division. It looks somewhat improved against Mackenzie Dern, and even then Mackenzie Dern outlanded her in every single round. It's looking somewhat improved against Amanda Ribas, and even then Amanda Ribas was touching her up bad, especially late in that fight. This is going to be probably the best. Yeah, it's going to be the best striker that Virna Jandiroba has fought thus far in her UFC career. Better striker than Mallory Martin. Angela Hill is better. Angela Hill is a better striker than Carla Esparza, the wrestler. It's going to be the best striker she's fought. So yeah, on the feet, it's Angela Hill all day, no question about it. It's just if Virna Jandiroba gets this fight down to the mat, the fight's going to be over shortly after. Virna, Jandiroba, legit black belt in BJJ, just absolute wizard on the mat. And Angela Hill has been subbed 2 times, and I believe both those submission losses were in the UFC as well. So it's a tricky fight. I think, Angela Hill has improved her takedown defense throughout her career. Angela Hill's takedown defense is, I want to say, like 78% at this point, which is very, very good. But, one takedown really could be all it takes in this fight. So, I don't know. I'm going to say that Angela Hill does stuff the takedowns. I'm going to say she keeps it on the feet and outpoints Virna Jandiroba for 3 rounds. And I actually think, Angela Hill could be live for a late finish. I just think the discrepancy on the feet is going to be so wide. But one takedown really could be all it takes for Virna Jandiroba to win by submission. So in terms of picking a winner, I'm going to take the dog and Hill here. And again, the line doesn't make much sense. I think if you like Jandiroba, just better by sub. And honestly, I'm going to be looking at that submission prop because I think that's her path to victory. I don't see Jandiroba going out here outstriking Angela Hill for 15 minutes. I think that's off the table. I don't see Jandiroba knocking out Angela Hill on the feet. I think that's off the table. And I really don't see Jandiroba taking down Angela Hill in 2 different rounds and not subbing Angela Hill. So I'm going to say Hill gets this one done. It's hard to be confident in Angela Hill. She goes to a decision in pretty much every fight. She goes to a close decision in every single fight. She's now 37 years old. But I think stylistically, this is a very winnable fight for Angela Hill, as long as she can keep it on the feet. But we'll see. I just feel like the line's off. I feel like it should be a pick'em. Either Jandiroba gets her down and subs her, or Hill stuffs the takedowns and picks her apart. Maybe a late finish there. But I'm going to say Angela Hill does win by decision, and it is probably a close fight as well. All right, moving on. Oh, boy. We have Michael Johnson going against Allan Patrick. And we have Michael Johnson, who is 35 years old, 5'10", with a 73.5-inch reach, 19-17 and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Allan Patrick, he is 38 years old, 5'11", 74-inch reach, 15-3 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Let's take a look at these odds. And I don't recommend anybody bets on this fight. I mean, betting on Michael Johnson is just not the best idea in the world. But we have Michael Johnson. He is a favorite. He opened up -140. He's now -150. Allan Patrick opened up +120. He's now +130. And I absolutely get it. I think this stylistically is a very, very good matchup for Michael Johnson. Such a good matchup, and he absolutely should win the fight. But how many times do we say, hey, Michael Johnson should absolutely win this fight, and then he goes out there and pulls a stunt, and that very well is on the table here. But yeah, this should be a good spot for Michael Johnson. He is 1-4 in his last 5 fights, but the story of Michael Johnson is, again, there's fights he's favored in, there's fights he should win, and he ends up losing them. He lost to Clay Guida as a favorite against Thiago Moises. This guy, Johnson, outlanded him 27-1. Second round starts. Moises rolls for an ankle lock, gets it, submits him at 25 seconds into the second round. Against Stevie Ray, he was winning early, and then ends up losing the last part of that fight, ends up losing a decision there against Josh Emmett. He was looking good. I mean, I thought he was winning the first 2 rounds. I thought Emmett needed to finish, and Emmett did get a finish with 50 seconds left in the fight. And there's just other fights like Darren Elkins. Michael Johnson was winning up until he lost, and just other fights like that. This guy is winning up until he's not. So it's a terrifying fight to bet on. I would never bet on a Michael Johnson fight again, although I do think he wins. It's just not worth it. Allan Patrick, this guy actually earlier in his career impressed me quite a bit with his wrestling. This guy's a relentless wrestler who wants to get it down to the mat. He took down Damir Hadzovic 9 times. He took down Stevie Ray 5 times, Damian Brown 5 times, won all 3 of those fights by decision. And then once he met some resistance in Scott Holtzman, where he wasn't able to take Holtzman down, he just looked pretty bad. The same thing with Bobby Green. It was actually Bobby Green that took down Patrick 4 times, which kind of surprised me. And then Mason Jones, which was a complete, domination up until that eye poke, and Patrick did call it quits in that one. But I mean, yeah, if this was Patrick of 5 years ago, I guess I'd pick him. But I just think Patrick's done. I think he's 38 years old now. If he's not able to get Michael Johnson to the mat, he's going to get picked apart, maybe even knocked out. Michael Johnson on paper does have a 77% takedown defense. That's why I think this is a very good matchup for him. Stuff the takedowns of Patrick. I think he's a much better striker than Patrick as well. It's just, I could see a scenario where Michael Johnson's looking really good. Round 1, round 2, he wins those rounds pretty easily, and then, I don't know, Patrick gets him down and subs him. It's hard to trust Michael Johnson. This guy's always looking good up until he's not. So I got to go Michael Johnson. I'm going to take him to win by decision. I think he does win this fight. I think it's a good fight for him, but trusting Michael Johnson with your money is just a terrible, terrible idea. And if you have been doing that throughout his run in the UFC, you've probably been sad a bunch of times. So yeah, give me Michael Johnson, but just an unbettable fight. Two of the most untrustworthy fighters on the card. But yeah, I'll take Johnson for the win. All right, next we have Viviane Araujo going against Andrea Lee. We have Viviane Araujo, who is now 35 years old, 5'4", with a 68-inch reach, 10-3, and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Andrea Lee, 33 years old, 5'6", with a 69.5-inch reach, 13-5, and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. This fight is a very close fight, and the odds do indicate that, as it is a straight pick'em, -110 each way. So I don't know. I mean, this fight would be so much easier to call if Viviane Araujo had cardio. But it's hard to call because she does not have cardio, and she's going to lose the 3rd round. I just think, she is going to be able to take down Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee, you take a look at Andrea Lee through her career, and she's actually been taken down in every single UFC fight besides one. She was taken down once by Veronica Macedo. She was taken down twice by Ashley Evans-Smith, 5 times by Montana De La Rosa, twice by Joanne Wood, twice by Lauren Murphy, 4 times by Roxanne Modafferi. That was just in 2020. And then once by Cynthia Calvillo. The only fight she was not taken down in was against Antonina Shevchenko, the very bad Shevchenko. But other than that, she's getting taken down. And you go back and watch the Roxanne fight, just not a good look. Roxanne was getting her down easily. And as we know, Roxanne is not the best wrestler by any means. And Viviane, she's very, very strong, very explosive. I think on the feet, it's competitive. You're going to have Andrea Lee, who's going to have the volume. And then you're going to have Araujo, who has good volume in her own right, but she's going to be landing the much, much harder shots, the more eye-popping shots, whereas Andrea Lee, doesn't have a lot of pop on them. So I think on the feet, it's very close and competitive, but I feel like if somebody's getting this fight down to the mat, it's going to be Araujo. Andrea Lee, again, has been taken down in every single UFC fight but one, whereas you have Viviane Araujo, who has to have, some of the best, if not the best, takedown defense in the division on paper. 94% takedown defense for Viviane Araujo. Very, very impressive stuff there. The only person to take her down is Montana De La Rosa, which obviously Montana is a very, very good wrestler. And once De La Rosa did get her down, she popped right back up, no problem. So, yeah, I think Viviane wins the 1st round at a high clip. I think she probably wins the 2nd round. It's just, she slows down so much as the fight goes on. She's now 35 years old. Another fight that's very close. I think it's going to come down to the 2nd round. But I think Araujo is going to, land the harder shots. I think she's going to mix in the takedowns, get on top of Lee. I believe Araujo is a black belt in BJJ as well, for what it's worth. So, yeah, I think it's a good spot for her. Again, it'd be much easier if she did have some 3-round cardio. She has about 2 rounds, and I think that 2-round cardio is going to be enough to win a greasy, close decision, probably a split decision. But I like Araujo here to win. I like her to win by decision there. All right, looking forward to this one. We have Jake Hadley going against Allan Nascimento. We have Jake Hadley, 25 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 8-0, and obviously 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Allan Nascimento, 30 years old, 5'9", with a 69.5-inch reach, 18-6, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds, and Hadley, money pouring in on him, opening at -300, went all the way to -205. He's back to -220. Nascimento opened up +250, and he's currently +185. So we have Hadley is making his debut, went in on the Contender Series, had a 1st round that was very kind of lackluster, but the 2nd round came around, he got a takedown, and ended up getting a submission. He was taken down a couple times in the 1st round of his fight, but you could see this guy's very good on the mat, very active off his back, and I really like what I see from Hadley. Stylistically, I see why money is coming in on Hadley here, because you take a look at Nascimento. We have a 2-fight sample. Both fights did go 15 minutes, and he fought some, very good opponents. On the Contender Series, he fought Raulian Paiva, and then he fought Tagir Ulanbekov in his debut. 2 very solid guys there. But we see that thus far in those 2 fights, he has a 9% takedown accuracy. The wrestling's not there, and then he has a 16% takedown defense, and the reason that is because he's very comfortable off his back, and rightfully so. If you go take a look at this guy, when he gets taken down, he's very active. He won the fight on one of the judges' scorecards against Tagir Ulanbekov. He won that fight, getting controlled 12 minutes and 4 seconds. A judge actually scored the fight for him, getting out-controlled by almost 12 minutes. I mean, that's just crazy, but it's because he's so active off his back. He's very good on the mat, very good off his back. He's going to attack nonstop, just very, very active, going for reversals and sweeps. He even got a couple reversals in some of his fights. I saw, like, this guy's legit on the mat, and that's why he's not really scared of, somebody taking him down. But this fight kind of feels to me like the Cortez Gatto fight last week, where one of these fighters is going to get on top, and I think, Cortez was able to get on top of Gatto, and then I think it's going to be Hadley who's going to be able to get on top of Nascimento. I feel like Nascimento is going to have to find something off his back, or else he's going to probably just get controlled like he did against Tagir Ulanbekov. I think Hadley is the more likely fighter to get the takedowns, get on top. He's going to have to mind his P's and Q's for 15 minutes, but I think that's why, Hadley is the favorite. That's why money is coming in on him. Don't know if I'd play him at that price tag, but I think Nascimento is probably sub or bust here in this spot. And I think Hadley's, ground game is solid enough to just stay on top for 15 minutes there. So I like Hadley to win. I like Hadley to win by decision. But I don't know. I wouldn't completely count Nascimento out. Nascimento is going to have some moments off his back. He's going to throw up submissions. Maybe he can get a reversal sweep, get on top. As far as the striking goes, I think it's very competitive. Was actually impressed with Nascimento's striking. He's very high volume, lots of kicks, some elbows mixed in there as well. But yeah, to see him being on his back the majority of the time, and I think Hadley does pull out a decision in this one. But yeah, looking forward to it. Should be a fun fight, but I do like Hadley to win, and I like Hadley to win the minutes, and I like Hadley to win by decision. All right, this fight should be an absolute banger for as long as it lasts. We have Frank Camacho going against Manuel Torres. We have Camacho, who is 32 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 22-9, and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Torres, 27 years old, 5'10", with a 73.5-inch reach, 12-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Take a look at the odds here. Camacho opened up plus 190, is now plus 103. Manuel Torres opened up minus 225, he's now minus 123. So the odds have closed in here, and rightfully so. And I don't know how anybody could be confident in this fight, because there's just not a ton we know about Torres. This guy has 14 fights, and you could literally only watch 3 of them. And the 3 that you can watch, they last for, I want to say 3 to 4 minutes in total. There's one where he's getting taken down, he gets submitted in a minute, and then we also got to see the Contender Series fight, which was very weird, and he looked good in that fight. His striking looked good, his kicks looked good. He had that eye poke that he literally poked the dude in the eye. Herb Dean just did not say anything about it, let the fight go on, and just finished him. A weird stoppage there. Not a ton of information on Torres, but we do know a decent bit about Frank Camacho. Camacho is a very fun fighter to watch. This guy's a black belt in BJJ, and I feel like stylistically, he could take down Torres and probably sub him here. Torres has been subbed in both his losses, but we know Frank Camacho. He's not going to go out there and do that. That's not his style. He doesn't want to get you down to the mat. He wants to go out there and he wants to stand and bang with you. Frank Camacho is throwing a ton of volume per minute, landing 6.67. He's also absorbing 7.31 significant strikes per minute. And I think Camacho does have a good chin, but when you're eating that many punches, you're going to get knocked out eventually. And he has been knocked out a bunch of times. He's been knocked out 5 times, which you don't really like to see that here against Torres, who does look like he hits very hard. Camacho has taken a very long layoff. It's been 1 year and 10 months. And I think that's, obviously you want to take a layoff after that, the Janes knockout, but I think he was in some accident as well. So lots going on with Camacho here. He is 32 years old, about to be 33, which actually surprised me. I feel like he's a lot older than that. And the dude's been fighting for, I think, almost 16 years. So he's been in the fight game a lot. He's still a very young guy. But he has taken a lot of damage. He has 31 fights. He has been knocked out 5 times. What's he going to look like after this layoff? I don't know. What is Manuel Torres going to look like if this fight gets past 3-4 minutes? I don't know. I haven't seen it. Just a weird fight, but this fight's going to be fun. I think somebody's getting knocked out. Somebody's going to get knocked out early. I think they're going to stand and bang like most Camacho fights are. As far as picking a winner, I think Camacho's going to be a very popular dog this week because he has fought the much better competition, and it's not even close. He's the more experienced fighter. It's not even close. But I think I'm going to go with Torres here. I'm going to take Torres to win by knockout. Camacho eats way too many shots for my liking. He's been knocked out 5 times at this point. He's taken a big layoff coming back. Torres is the much younger guy. He's training at a good gym as well. I'm going to say Torres knocks out Frank Camacho in the first round. But yeah, if it gets out of the first round, I think it's going to be very interesting. But this is one of those fights where it's kind of like that Matt Frevola fight. I forget who was fighting, but I think they're just going to stand and bang in that first round until one man falls. And I'm going to say Camacho gets his 6th knockout loss. Torres has never been knocked out, and I don't think Camacho is going to use his ground game here. So yeah, give me Torres to knock out Frank Camacho in the first round. This fight's going to be an absolute banger for as long as it lasts. Next we have Katlyn Chookagian going against Amanda Ribas. We have Chookagian, who is 33 years old, 5'9", with a 68-inch reach, 17-4, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. We have Ribas, who is 20 years old, 5'3", with a 66-inch reach, 11-2, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Katlyn Chookagian opened up -175. She is currently -175, and Ribas opened up +150, and she is currently +150. So I think it's all going to come down to size in this fight. I think size is absolutely going to matter. Amanda Ribas is coming up to 125 pounds. I will note that she has fought there before. She fought against Paige Van Zandt at 125, but I think it's going to be her second fight here at 125, and honestly, like, it makes 0 sense to me. She's going to be so undersized here. It's crazy. We have a 5'3" Ribas going against a real 125er and Chookagian who's 5'9", who's very long, very lengthy, and I just feel like it's a really bad matchup for Ribas. Like, on the feet, it's going to be Chookagian all day for me, especially considering she's going to have the length, the reach, as well. Chookagian has that point fighting style that really seems to work quite a bit. And she's going to be a much better striker just in general. And then you have Ribas, who's going to want to get this fight down to the mat. And I just find that hard to believe that she's going to come out here and, take down a much, much bigger Chookagian and, either submit her or just take her down multiple times and control her and win enough minutes on the mat. I really find that hard to believe. I think that's her path to victory, though. I think if Ribas does win this fight, that does mean she is taking down Chookagian. She is getting on top, and Ribas is the better grappler. She's a black belt in BJJ. That's her game. But Chookagian's no slouch on the mat. She's a brown belt. Her ground game looks much improved throughout the years as well. So on paper, Chookagian does have a 55% takedown defense, but you take a look at who she's getting taken down, and much, much bigger fighters than Amanda Ribas. So Viviane Araujo was able to take down Chookagian. Cynthia Calvillo, Jessica Andrade took her down. Valentina, like, those are the fighters that are taking down Katlyn Chookagian. So yeah, I think it's a weird matchup, questionable matchup. Ribas coming up and fighting a much bigger Chookagian, but I think Chookagian gets it done, and I think she gets it done by decision. I will note that Ribas has been knocked out in both of her losses. The chin looks to be quite terrible, honestly. Could Chook get her first finish here? Potentially. I think that could maybe be on the table, but Chookagian has the worst finish rate on the card. I'll lean towards a decision there, but yeah, you can't really trust the chin of Ribas in this spot, I don't think. But Chookagian by decision. Probably an uneventful fight, but I think it's a good matchup for her. So give me Chookagian by decision there. All right, 3 fights left. We have another banger. We have Luis Smolka going against Davey Grant, a fight that I'm definitely looking forward to. Both of these guys, very exciting. Davey Grant, 36 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach, 11-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Luis Smolka, 30 years old, 5'9", with a 68.5-inch reach, 17-8 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Davey Grant, the second biggest favorite on the entire card. He opened up -275. He's now -310. Luis Smolka opened up +235. He's now +260. And I think the reason that is because people are very low on Luis Smolka. This guy is kind of hard to read. Like, sometimes he shows up, he looks very good. Sometimes he shows up and he looks very bad. Like, which version of Luis Smolka is going to show up? And then we have Davey Grant, who is on a 2-fight losing streak, but his stock, his stock jumped up massively after both those fights against Marlon Vera. Put up a very competitive fight. He actually beat Marlon Vera first round, which everybody beats Marlon Vera first round, but still, the second round was competitive for a little bit, and then Marlon Vera kept taking over. He showed a lot of toughness in that fight, not getting finished by Marlon Vera. And then his stock went up against Adrian Yanez when he lost a split decision. I did have a bet on Yanez in that fight. I was terrified. I thought Yanez, clearly won, but hey, it was competitive, or at least it was more competitive than I did think it would be. So yeah, I think his stock went up massively in both those losses, which is interesting there. But yeah, Davey Grant, throughout his career, like, this guy, he's now like a very, very good striker. His striking looks like much improved from earlier in his career. His grappling's always been solid offensively. Defensively, his grappling's not great. He's been sub 4 times, but yeah, his striking's very good. He's very long, very rangy, throws a bunch of different attacks, and I just think he'll be the much better striker in this fight as well. He's going to have a slight reach advantage. I do like that, but yeah, I think the striking's going to go to Davey Grant. If Louis Smolka is going to win this fight, he probably has to get it down to the mat. Louis Smolka, very good grappler. I believe he's a black belt. Davey Grant has been sub 4 times, like I mentioned, so that would kind of be the path to victory for Smolka there. But yeah, I don't really see it. I think it's a solid matchup for Davey Grant. Do I want to lay minus 300 on a 36-year-old bantamweight? Not really. But I think, he's going to go out here. He's going to outstrike Smolka and probably knock him out at some point. Davey Grant obviously hits very, very hard. Going out there and knocking out Jonathan Martinez is not something easy to do. Knocked out Martin Day as well, and he's shown a much improved striking. So yeah, I like Grant here, but the price tag is kind of like, I don't know. That's a lot to be laying on a guy like an 11-6, 36-year-old bantamweight, and Davey Grant, who's been subbed like 4 times. But yeah, he should win this fight. Can't trust Smolka. Give me Davey Grant to win by like a 2nd or 3rd round knockout there. Co-main event, we have Ryan Spann going against Ion Cutelaba, 2 guys that are going to bring it. We have Cutelaba, 20 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach, 16-6-1, and 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. Ryan Spann, 30 years old, 6'5", with an 81.5-inch reach, 19-7, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Ion Cutelaba opened up as a minus 175 favorite. He is now minus 210. Ryan Spann opened up plus 150. And he is now plus 180. So Ion Cutelaba is the decent-sized favorite here. And yeah, I see why. I think Cutelaba's looked like a lot better as of late in terms of the whole game planning. I mean, sometimes he goes out there and fights like a complete wild man, and it works sometimes it doesn't. But he's actually going out there and fighting with a game plan against Dustin Jacoby. Went out there, he took down Dustin Jacoby 9 times throughout the first couple rounds, controlled him a decent amount in that fight. And Jacoby was able to get up, and Cutelaba slowed down and got 10-8'd in the 3rd round. But yeah, he fought with a game plan. His cardio failed him there, but he fought with the game plan regardless. And then in terms of the Devin Clark fight, he went out there, same thing. He went out there, took down Devin Clark, who's a very good wrestler in his own right, 8 times, controlled him for like 9 minutes in that fight, beat him up bad on the mat, and ultimately won decision. His cardio looked much better in that fight as well. So he's going out there with the game plan, and I kind of feel like it's going to be the same thing here. I think he's going to be going out there, taking down Ryan Spann, and just beating him up on the mat, potentially finishing him at some point. Ryan Spann, very dangerous guy. It's hard to trust the chin of Ryan Spann. The dude's been knocked out like several times at this point. Got knocked out by Johnny Walker. He got hurt really bad, like twice against Anthony Smith. He got knocked out by Carl Roberson on the Contender Series as well. Like the chin of Spann just does not look that great. So I think Cutelaba is going to have many opportunities to knock him out at some point, whether it is on the feet, whether it is on the mat. But that's not saying Ryan Spann does not have paths to victory. I think he does. Like if Cutelaba comes out here and does not take down Ryan Spann, if he wants to stand and bang with Spann, like Spann is going to have opportunities. Spann is going to have a reach advantage. Spann is going to have a height advantage as well, a big height advantage. He's huge for the division, and Ryan Spann hits like a truck, but I just feel like Cutelaba is not going to give him many opportunities. I feel like he's going to get this fight down to the mat. I think he's going to kind of break Ryan Spann. I think he's going to finish him at some point in this fight. So, yeah, I like Cutelaba. I think he has more paths to victory here, whether it is knocking Spann out on the feet or whether it's just taking him down, just drowning him like he has his last 2 opponents, especially the Devin Clark fight as well. So, yeah, I like Cutelaba to win. I'm going to take him to win by like a 2nd or 3rd round, like a TKO there. And now we have the main event. I just want to remind you guys, me and Uncle Weezy did go live on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, did a main event deep dive, went about 45 minutes on this fight. So if you want a further in-depth analysis, go check that out. We also talked about it from a betting perspective and all that good stuff. But yeah, Jan Blachowicz, Aleksander Rakic. Yeah, at first I thought, I'm not looking forward to this fight too much. Probably is a boring fight. After researching it a little bit more, I'm a little more excited for it. But yeah, I could still see this being a very uneventful main event. But this is a high-level fight, and we got to respect that. Rakic, he's 30 years old, 6'4", they 78-inch reach, 14-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Blachowicz, 39 years old, 6'2", with a 78-inch reach, 28-9 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So Rakic is going to be bigger. He's going to be longer. He fights longer. He's going to have a 9-year age advantage. He's 9 years younger. I think that's huge. And Blachowicz was on a serious run prior to getting beat by the 44-year-old or 43-year-old Glover Teixeira. Going out there, beating Israel Adesanya, going out there, knocking out Dominic Reyes, Corey Anderson, beating Jacare Souza, knocking out Luke Rockhold. Just a very good run for Jan Blachowicz there. And it all came to an end at that Teixeira fight, which, by the way, he looked like, I don't know, he looked off in that fight. He looked really bad. I was expecting Blachowicz to have a lot more success, especially early on. Typically, we see Teixeira getting knocked down at least 2 times before he comes back and wins, but no, it was Teixeira the whole time. So I thought Blachowicz looked a little bit off. Could he be declining a little bit? The dude is now 39 years old. He's had over 30 fights to this point. Is he on somewhat of a decline? I don't know what to see, but it's not a good look at his last fight. Yeah, this fight should be somewhat close. I feel Rakic, you take a look at him earlier in the UFC, he's more exciting, but his last 2 performances will just put you to sleep. Went out there against Thiago Santos, he gets outlanded, I think, in every single round, was able to win the fight off of basically cage control, one of the most boring fights I'll ever see. Prior to that, against Anthony Smith, hurts him very bad within the first minute, ends up laying on Smith for the last 14, 15 minutes of that fight. It was a decision, but before that, he had that knockout against Manuel, had that very exciting fight against Devin Clark, somewhat exciting fight against Justin Ledet. But what he does well though is win minutes, and I think he's gonna win minutes here. I think the striking is pretty close and competitive. I like the hands of Blachowicz, but I really like the kicks of Rakic. Very good leg kicks. He showed that off in the Anthony Smith fight, the Ledet fight, even a little bit in the Clark fight as well. Just very, very good leg kicks, and I think that can be a factor here. Very good head kick. He showed that off in the Manuel fight, knocking him out brutally. And again, he's going to be a younger fighter. He's very long, very lengthy. I like that. And I feel like he could, win minutes on the mat if he does choose to take it there. Blachowicz's takedown defense is very good. Did not look good in his last fight against Teixeira. And we saw when Teixeira did get him down, Blachowicz just had nothing off his back. I feel like if Aleksander Rakic gets him down, he's not going to get back up. So I feel like that's a path to victory. But it could just be a very uneventful fight where both guys are just respecting each other's power. That's kind of how I see it. But I think Rakic has more paths to victory in terms of the cage control. In terms of if he can get this fight down to the mat, I think that's huge. I think he can win minutes on top. But I'll say Rakic's decision. I think he kind of grinds this one out. I think he's gonna have the better cardio as well. We've never seen Rakic go through 5 rounds, but we do see Blachowicz. He slowed down a little bit in that Adesanya fight towards the end. I know he still won a couple of those late rounds, but he looked very, very tired. And I'm going to say that Rakic probably ends up having better cardio, but we'll see. Not a fight you could be overly confident in, but I just think the guy with the more paths to victory is going to be Rakic there. Not a fight I'm betting on as well, but I'll take Rakic to win. I'll take Rakic to win by decision. And it's going to be a fight. It is. But yeah, guys, that's it. 11 fights. Decent card. I think there's some very, very fun matchups. I think there's some matchups I'm not really looking forward to. From a betting perspective, this is probably one of my least favorite cards of the year from a betting perspective. I have no bets yet, and honestly, not a ton sticking out. I don't want to force anything. Had a really good night on Saturday. Don't want to give it all back here. So it's going to be a really light night for me. Really light night for me for the most part. I'm going to start looking at next week's card, and then we have some banger cards in June as well. So looking forward to lots of UFC coming our way. If you guys can leave a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Getting really close to 15K subs. We're almost there. Let's try to get it this week. If you want extra content, sign up at dfsbythenumbers.com. Started dropping some content on there today. Going to be working on my articles throughout the night as well, and be dropping those Wednesday and then Friday, some more articles as well. So lots going on over there. Talk to you guys soon. Best of luck. We will see you Friday for the live stream.